Hello everyone, welcome to the video, welcome to the YouTube channel. Sorry I've not done a video for a while, but I've been incredibly busy with other things. And I want to talk about why I've decided to sell this lens. The reason I decided to sell it, even though it's an incredibly sharp lens, the 300 EF USM Mark II lens with image stabilization and the drop-in, I think it's 46mm filter slotting thing, a lens is only useful if you actually use it, and obviously it's the winter and we might use this lens a few months of the year because in the winter it's low light. But the thing is, in the summer I'm going to get my zoom lenses out, even though this is probably a tad bit sharper, only a tad bit sharper. I don't really utilise it. I keep it in a storage locker at home and I don't use it, and I paid £3 for it, and I'm thinking to myself, why don't I use that money for something I might use more often, such as the 200 to 800 f9 lens? And yes, the RF lens I did say I would not buy. Obviously extenders can be used on the 100 to 500 RF 7.1 lens, which I do own, and I do have the 1.4 extender. But the problem with that lens is you can't use it, the extender, all the time. You can only zoom back to 300, which is quite a pain in the butt. So then I reluctantly decided I'm going to get the 200 to 800 RF lens, so I can use that on the odd occasion that I don't want to put the extender on the other lens. And then I was thinking about this lens, I'm thinking, yes, it's an incredibly sharp lens. I've taken test shots, compared it to the other lenses that I've got, such as the 100 to 500 and the 200 to 800 and even the 800 f11 lens. Is it sharper? Yes. But it's so small, the difference. I don't think you benefit having a prime lens anymore. I think we've got to the point where zoom lenses are as sharp or as prime lenses. They might not quite be as sharp in the corners, because generally you'll find prime lenses are sharper the entire frame, not just in the centre. Zoom lenses tend to be a bit softer in the corners. But if you can live with that, you might want to consider keeping your zoom lenses rather than primes. Obviously the dream prime lens for me to buy would be the 500 f4, but I've been thinking about this for some time, thinking as you get older things get heavier, you feel it in your shoulders, you feel it in your joints, you feel it in your elbows, and as you get older these heavy prime lenses such as the 300 2.8 Mark II, the 500 f4, even the new RF 600 f4s, they are heavy beasts to lug around, and sometimes for the same weight you can carry two cameras, your zoom lens and another small zoom lens like a wide angle lens. You just can carry more gear for less weight when you're not carrying a massive heavy prime like this. And another thing to take into account, when you go on aircrafts or you put it in the luggage hold, there's always a potential of getting damage, and you might not be able to take your big f4 lens onto the aircraft anyway because it's so big. So with the more limitations that more airliners are putting on weights in terms of what you can take on with you, you may have to consider somewhat smaller, or when you get to your location just rent the lens. It's probably more economical to rent an L lens for a couple of weeks than actually own it for 100% of the time. You might only go to Africa twice a year. Is it worth spending £13,000 on a long prime lens that you're only going to use a few times on the holiday? It might be beneficial and more practical to rent it. So this is the conclusion what I've come to in regards to selling this. I've decided that I would rather have the 200 800 RF lens, even though I said I won't buy it originally because the f9 aperture is quite dark. And obviously I've got the 100 to 500, which I just generally use it on its own. I don't put the extender on. It's too much of a pain in the butt because you can only zoom back to 300mm. I think it's around 460 is the minimum that you can zoom back to. Unlike the old USM 400 f4 lens, which was great because you could put your extender on and zoom back all the way back to the 100mm mark, which was about 160mm or 140, depending if you were using crop sensor cameras or not. And I just find it a pain to have a big lens like this in terms of putting in a bag. So reluctantly I've decided to sell it. Now some people might say, oh, why do that? It's such a brilliant lens, such a sharp lens, such a great lens. And I won't disagree with you guys. I will not disagree with you. It is a fantastic lens to own. Unfortunately, I just don't have much use for it. Basically, it's like I've recently got the Osmo Pocket 3 video camera, right? It's quite small, so big. And what you find is the best camera you've got is the one that you've got on you. And most of the time we've all got our phones with us. But unfortunately the sensors on phones are crap, especially at night time. They're actually useless at night time in my opinion. The Osmo Pocket 3 has a decent sensor on it, and it rivals APS-C, which means it's really great as a vlogging camera. And if you basically pair that up with an SLR with a zoom lens, I think you're pretty much covered for what you need. Anyway, I just wanted to give you my reasons why I've decided to sell it, because £3,000 in a locker doing nothing, it's no good to anyone, is it? So I thought, right, what I've decided to do is sell it. So I've sold it, and I basically have got the same money that I paid for it, and I've had it for about 3 years, maybe 5 years. That is a great thing, because what it says is if you invest a lot of money into an L series lens and it's in great condition, this is in pristine condition, this lens. The only thing that's got a problem with it is a few rubbing marks on the lens hood, but that's it. The lens is immaculate, and that's why it fetched such a good selling price. And obviously I've got the European cover that goes on it. This is a note for you guys: if you want to keep a lens value, put an European coating cover on it, or any sort of cover on the lens to protect it from scratches and marks. That way you keep as much as resale value as you possibly can. So this is the reason why I've decided to sell it. Some people may be saying that's a bad decision, it's a great lens, you got it for a great price. And you're right, I probably got this £500 cheaper than I should have got it. However, obviously it didn't come with a case, and the case is about £500, so you know, that's by the by. But obviously someone has realised, I really want this lens, I want to go to the Philippines and photograph with this. Great, good luck. It's a fantastic lens, it's really sharp, it does everything you could want it to do. Autofocus is flawless, no issues with sharpness. I've done some test shots recently that another person on eBay wanted, but then wasted my time and then didn't buy the lens in the first place. However, I did take those shots, and what I can tell you is it's flawless. It's as sharp as any of the RF lenses I've got. I would say it's a tad bit sharper than the 200 to 800, to be honest with you, and it rivals the 100 to 500 easily. So for me, it's a great lens. It's fantastic. It's reasonably light as well. It's about 2.8 kilograms, but when you put the extender on, it's about 3. So it's still quite a hefty lens compared to other lenses, which are about a kilogram lighter than this. I just find the fact that it has no zoom a bit of a problem sometimes, because with a prime, you zoom with your feet, you can't always get closer. You know, you can't get closer to lions, for example, because they're dangerous. So the zoom comes into its own. But I do want to make some really clear in this video that getting closer is key to getting sharp images, and it doesn't matter what the subject matter is. The reason I say this is a lot of people get big lenses, big massive zooms, massive zoom ranges, even the 200 to 800 for example. People think 800mm is brilliant, it'll get me closer. It don't mean you'll get good shots, mate, or ladies. What it means is you can get closer, but you've always got to remember all the distortion from the atmosphere is going to affect your images. And another thing people forget about is, don't take your lens outside out of your warm car into a cold environment and think you'll get sharp shots. You won't. Your lens has to adapt and adjust to the temperatures. That can take some hours. So when people got this fantastic sharp lens and they go out, take it out into the real world, and they've left their warm car, it's been in the boot, which is still going to be fairly warm, and they think to themselves, oh, why is my sharp lens not sharp? It's terrible, I'm going to take it back to the shop. And the shop will look at it and think, there's nothing wrong with your lens, what's the problem? Oh, it's got these, I don't got these sharp images. Well, you didn't think about the temperature differences and the atmosphere changes. It's just the same as with you adapting to being on an aircraft and going sky high, 14, 15,000 feet in the air, and it affects your ears. It's the same principle with lenses. It affects and your eyesight will get affected by the pressures up in the sky as well. And the same applies to any lens. So don't blame your lens, ladies and gentlemen. It's normally you, the photographer, it's in error. Normally user error is a lot of the time where we get results that are not good, including myself. Sometimes when I've tested lenses out, I've made a mistake and realised, oh, I didn't focus it properly or in the right place. We all make mistakes. So I just wanted to point that out, ladies and gentlemen, that just because you've got the greatest lens in the world don't mean it makes you the greatest photographer in the world. You've got to appreciate the equipment, the atmospheric conditions, how the weather plays into that, how your eyes are. Are your eyes any good? Do you have to wear glasses? Do you have to go to opticians, check your eyes out? Do you thinking about laser eye surgery to get the good eyesight? These are things that affect your images as well. Sometimes it's your eyes that are not good, and your lens is perfect. So keep these things into account. Anyway, so that's one of the reasons why I've decided to sell this lens. I have been tempted to go over to the Olympus platform, OM as it's known now, because they've got a fantastic, I think it's a 150 to 400 lens. When you equate that to full frame, it's about a 2000mm lens, something like that, with a built-in 1.5 extender switch you can flick, and I have been tempted by the OM platform because obviously it's 2 times what you're getting. It's more magnification than APS-C is, which is 1.6. But there you go. That's something I've been contemplating, going to OM, because it's lighter equipment, not so taxing on your shoulders and your body frame. As we all get older, we find it harder to keep things steady. What I would recommend to a lot of photographers who do have heavy lenses is work out a lot with your biceps, do weightlifting, try and get your body to a good position in order to hold these for long periods of time. Don't just rely on your existing health being good enough, because as you get older you sort of struggle. And I've noticed that myself as I get older. I sometimes feel pain in my joints more often now. My muscles not as strong as they used to be, and I have to do exercise to try and build that strength up. These things are always going to affect you as you get older, and as you have these heavy duty lenses, it affects you personally like that. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick video before I send it off to the new buyer. Hopefully he'll like this video when he sees it. But I put on a new what is it called? Is it HAORELFCA68 mount on there with 2 mounting points on there, because it's better than the original one, because the original one is really tiny, and this is Arcus Swiss as well, so that's why it's a great mount for photography. And obviously I'll include the original one that I've got over there as well with the guy, but hopefully he'll appreciate this far more. Obviously I'm getting a bit on a little bit, and I'm thinking to myself, I've got other lenses. A lot of times you'll duplicate lenses in your locker and you'll think, do I really need 2 lenses that cover 2 focal lengths when I'm only going to be using the 1 lens? We can't use 2 lenses at once, no matter how much we want to. So you could have a 180 to 200, 70 to 200, 100 to 500, 200 to 800, primes such as 300, 2.8s, 400, 2.8s, 500, f4s, 600, f4s. They're all covering similar focal ranges. It's like, do you need all these lenses? Because there's a lot of photographers out there that have all this equipment. And I think to myself, you can only use one at a time. Choose the lens you use the most, and ditch the rest. So for me, I think generally speaking, what you need in terms of lenses is something that can do wide angle, that can do standard perspective such as camera to camera like 50mm, or something that covers that range like 24 to 70. Then something that covers a big range like a 100 to 500, and then maybe you want something that goes up to the 600 in low light perhaps. I don't think you need anything more than that. There's no need, you don't need to have 10 lenses that covers lots of different focal ranges. And if you spend most of your time at the far end of your focal range, whether it be 500 or 800, you only need one lens that does that. You don't need multiple lenses. So hopefully you find this informative. I hope I put my point across why sometimes having a lens in your locker that you might like, you might love, you might think it's great, I'm happy that I've got it, but do I use it? No, I don't use it. If I'm honest with you, I carry my 100 to 500 7.1 lens with me 95% of the time when I'm going out in the local parks. And if I go out to somewhere where I think I need more range, I've recently got the 200 to 800 and I'll use that. Is it quite as good as the 100 to 500? Not quite as professional coatings on it, but it's still a sharp lens. And when I compared it to the 100 to 500 and the 800 f11, there was very little difference in it, to be honest with you. You know, if you're pixel peeping, you might find a slight bit more chromatic aberration in the 200 to 800, maybe not quite as sharp in the corners. But we're just nitpicking at little things. I think in today's world, lenses have got so good and so sharp, we don't need these expensive f4 lenses anymore. I really don't think we need them anymore. If you're a professional and you spend a lot of your time in dark situations, in forests, I can see you wanting to invest that money. I can see that. However, if you're just an average, occasional person that goes out and takes images, I don't think it's worth it. I think you're better off taking that £3 grand, that £5 grand, that 13 grand you're thinking of investing, get something a bit cheaper and invest it into something you might be using more often. Maybe you want to extend your house that you've been meaning to do, or you want a conservatory, or you want a new driveway that you'll be using all the time. Think about something you will use all the time, rather than something you might just use and want but not use hardly ever. You know, you might just take this to Africa once or twice a year, but that's it. You know, this is what you might call a mini 500 f4 lens, because you can put a 1.4 extender on this, get to 480mm at f4 with a 1.4 extender, or put the 2 times on this and get 600 5.6. So it's like a mini 500 lens. However, if you've got other lenses that cover that focal range, do you need this? That's the question you need to ask yourself. You know, we all have lots of lenses. You know, I've recently got rid of the 800 f11 lens because I thought, well, the minimum focus is 6 meters. It's quite terrible. And I was looking at the 200 800. It has a minimum focus of, I think it's about 3 meters at the long end and 1.2 meters at a shorter range. Around, I think it was around up to 300mm, something like that. And I'm thinking that's far more useful to me. The minimum focus is far useful to me than 6 meters is. And then obviously you've got this. I think the minimum focus is a lot better. It's 2 meters on that, and it's got a limiter on there. Limiters are quite important on long lenses. Don't underestimate limiters. A lot of that can be done in camera now these days with the digital RF lenses and cameras. However, I do think, you know, things have come a long way. Anyway, hopefully you find this video informative. I'm going to be sending this off to the new buyer. I hope you enjoy it. I will send the original mount if you prefer to keep that. But personally, I think this is far superior mount, this one. It only cost me £40 off Amazon. If any of you guys are interested, in the comments, let me know and I'll put a link to where I got it. because some people have asked about it on eBay, because they were asking me, where did you get this from? I haven't seen it, it looks great, where can I get it from? Basically you just take the old mount off with Allen keys, put this back on, and it's far more useful. Look, I can hold it with my hand, look, because the original one, I think if I just compare it, it was about that long, and you can't get your hand on it properly. I wanted something I could use to steady with my hand, and it's a lot longer and more useful. So that's the video, guys. I just want to do a quick video to discuss it, why I've decided to sell it. But essentially I've got what I paid for it, really, so I can't really argue there, and that's all I wanted. So I've got some new content on my YouTube channels coming. Keep an eye out for that, because I've just been to Thailand, and we'll upload a video, and quite a few videos will be coming out over the next couple of weeks if you want to look at those. But I've got some killer imagery to show you guys. You know, I've been to the places where Mortal Kombat was filmed, so keep an eye out for those videos. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye bye. Forest, looking for some exciting images of birds. Let's just see what we can get.